Good evening. In the classic tradition, it would be proper to list all the many accomplishments, awards, and credits that our honored guest has achieved. But who can better express these accomplishments than the poetess herself? The best introduction that a poet can have is through her own words, which become windows for the people to introduce themselves to the poet. So to present her poetry and herself to you, a some lady for all seasons, Sister Sonia Sanchez.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum to those who have come. Can you see me? I can hardly see you over this because I'm so tall. Tonight I want to read some poems from a couple of my books and then do a short story for you. The first poem I like to read is a poem from my first book, which is Homecoming. The poem is called Poem at 30. It is midnight, no magical bewitching hour for me. I know only that I am here, waiting, remembering that once as a child I walked 2 miles in my sleep. Did I know then where I was going? Traveling, I am always traveling. I want to tell you about me, about nights on a brown couch when I wrap my bones in lint and refuse to move. No one touches me anymore. Father, do not send me out among strangers. You black man, stretching, scraping the mold from your body. Here is my hand. I am not afraid of the night. It's a poem that I did with my first collection called Homecoming. It was a time when I tell students in my class, it was a time when black people tried to come together, made a movement towards each other, we, in a sense, put out our hands at each other and said, here is my hand. I am not afraid of the night. Because there had been many night hours that we had all had here in America. A couple of poems from a second book called We Are Bad People. People usually ask me in writers' workshops, when do you write? And I always say, having to work in America, I usually write at night, from usually 12:30 to 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then up at 6:30, and the day begins. Because very few of us have gotten grants to stay home and write a book. Usually we write books during the time that we're teaching 2 and 3 classes a semester. So We Are Bad People was my second book during the time of teaching. And the poem I like to read is a poem for my father. It's a poem that I like very much. It's a poem about not just my father, but many black men who were told in America that the only way they could be men was by having lots of women. America programmed the black man in this country for manhood via many women. That was from our slavery days, when you and I understand that America told this black man that he could not be the man that he wanted to be. He could not, in fact, can you hear me? No. Yes? No. That's a wide one there. Can you hear me? In fact, when America told men like my father and the brothers I went to school with that this is like where you're growing up. This is your turf here. We grew up in Harlem. And our turf was from 110th Street to 155th Street. From Lenox Avenue up to Amsterdam Avenue. We couldn't go on Broadway at the time I grew up. Later on, we integrated Broadway. And you couldn't go on Riverside Drive because like only Caucasians lived on Broadway and Riverside Drive. So when you went past Amsterdam Avenue, it meant a rumble. It meant a fight, if you understand what I'm saying. That was real. It's like old history now, but it was very real to many of us. So this was our turf. And some of us like rebelled against being in this, on this turf. We said, well, hey, look, you know, we just don't want to stay here with all these bloods. Let us out. And America said, well, how you going to get out? I mean, what's your thing? We said, well, you know, we're bright. We're exceptional niggers. You know what I'm talking about. And which meant that then we could go to the colleges, right? America said, oh, yeah, right, you are. Yes, you can go. So we jumped out and said, okay, then the rest of y'all stay there. But the rest of the bloods who stayed there, mind you, had to deal with that reality, that you had to then deal with each other. You were not allowed to go downtown to Wall Street and do the biggest hustle in the world, right? You know, they had to stay there. So those of us who went outside to the Hunter College of America, the NYUs of America, would come home with our books. And they say like, Sonia, what's happening? You say, well, you know, I'm down at Hunter. They say, well, oh, Hunter College, we heard you at Hunter. What you taking? And you had your books in your hands. You say, well, you know, I'm taking a little psychology and a little sociology, you know, a little anthropology, you know. And he said, the way you said it, he said, oh, yeah, well, I understand. And he backed away because, you know, you were into your, you know, apologies, you know. But that was really real because, like, then at some point we began to look at the brothers and the sisters who were left there, who were not the exceptional niggers. We looked at them like, hey, what you doing still here? And we became superior, if you understand what I'm saying. You know, it became to be a very superior kind of thing that we were into because we began to look down at the brothers who were like hanging around, who could not get outside. And the brothers on the block became the pimps and the numbers runners and all them other funny kinds of things when America allows you to turn against each other, if you understand what I'm saying. America allowed us in our neighborhood, those people to turn against each other, the young dudes who didn't want to go downtown and work like my father worked. You know, I'm serious. There was a group, my father, they worked hard. They went downtown and worked some mean hours and came back home to take care of our generation. But then it was my generation, the dudes that I ain't going to go downtown and push them carts, you know. I'm not going to go downtown and push the elevator up and down. That ain't my thing. They want to do so much more. And the brother who came to our house to pick up the numbers, because everybody in New York played the numbers, was a mathematical genius. You know, he never was picked up because he never had to write down no numbers. You give him a number, he could memorize it, run it down, tell you how many combinations. He did the whole building, in fact, the whole block. And he never had no little pieces of paper, you know. He was a mathematical genius walking through the streets of Harlem, but all that was allowed him was his little turf, his little section, a numbers runner in Harlem. That's what was done to our parents, to some of our fathers, to some of the brothers who were my age, who, when we came through junior high school, they all dropped out of school. By the time we got out of high school, most of the brothers were not graduating from high school. Just the sisters were coming out. And so this poem was in a sense for my father and all the other brothers who were programmed to be men in certain kinds of ways. A poem for my father. How sad it must be to love so many women, to need so many black perfume bodies weeping underneath you. When I remember all those nights, I fill my mind with long wars between short-sighted Trojans and Greeks, while you slap some wide hits about in your private dungeon. When I remember your deformity, I want to do something about your makeshift manhood. I guess that is why on meeting your sixth wife, I crossed myself with her confessionals. If you understand what that poem is saying at this time, all the way back from the slavery days and William Wells Brown talking about stud Negroes, if you understand that. Black Rhetoric, a poem for some brothers who were incarcerated. Who's going to make all that beautiful black rhetoric mean something? Who's going to take the words black is beautiful and make more of it than black capitalism, you dig? Like who's going to take all the young, long-haired, natural brothers and sisters and let them grow till all that is important is themselves moving in straight revolutionary lines towards the enemy, and we know who that is, like man. Who's going to give our young black people new heroes instead of catchphrases, instead of Cadillacs, instead of pimps, instead of white hoes, instead of drugs, instead of new dances, instead of chitlins, instead of a 35-cent bottle of Ripple, instead of quick lovemaking in the hallway of white America's mind? Like this is an SOS, me calling, calling. Someone, please reply soon. Those were the kinds of poems we started to write, and we were writing in the 1960s, poems that like very important to us in terms of like saying to people there was some very real stuff going on here in America, and we were trying to deal with that kind of real stuff. Poem I did for a young sister when I went to a place in New York City. I just come home from Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh, and a young sister was talking with a group of young dope addicts. She was 15 years of age, and she was talking about the first day she shot dope. I called it Summer Words of a Sister Addict. The first day I shot dope was on a Sunday. I had just come home from church, got mad at my mother 'cause she got mad at me, you dig. Went out, shot up behind a feeling against her. It felt good, gooder than doing it yet. It was nice. I did it, I did it, I want to do it again. It felt so good. And as the sister sits in her silent, remembered high, someone leans forward, gently asks her, sister, did you finally learn how to hold your mother? And the music of the day drifts into the room to mingle with the sister's young tears, and we all sing. It's a poem that is very real for some of us. If you've ever talked to young brothers and sisters who have tracts on their arms at the age of 8 and 9, sometimes we get so far removed from what is happening in the world that in our own little dorms, in our own little rooms, we can sniff coke and get a 10-foot high and say that's like real cool. But the same people selling you that coke that you be sniffing to feel 10 feet high, when you come down from, you're still 5'10", 5'11", whatever that be about. Them same people in New York City and in Chicago and all over, them same people be selling stuff to young children, 8 and 9. If you've ever talked to a 9-year-old with no hope in his eyes, you know what I'm talking about, that you need to come off that stuff and stop being so bloody cool and be real cool and look at America the way it really is. You can't see America from a high, because it ain't that high up, if you understand what I'm saying, if you really understand where I'm coming from. You talk to college students about dope, and they get very quiet. They laugh at everything else but that, because, besides being a television generation, this is a reefer generation also. You don't get high off wine. Reefer's part of it. Well, reefer might be cool for some people, but for young children to be dealing with reefer, and then the same dudes that give them reefer for a little bit also give them the heroin. If you understand truly what I'm saying, if you ever seen a young sister who sells her body at 10 for a fix, then you know we got no business dealing with no kind of drugs, at all. If you've ever seen that. If you've never seen it, probably don't bother you at all. But maybe the next time you take a sniff of coke, you'll think about a 10-year-old sister selling her body to truck drivers for a fix at 10. Answer to your question of am I not your woman, even if you went on drugs again. And I, a beginner in your love, say no. I would not be your woman and see you disappear each day before my eyes and know your reappearance to be a one-night stand. No, man. Black lovers cannot live in white powder that removes them from their black cells, cannot ride majestic white horses in a machine age. Black lovers must live, push against the evils of this world, against the creeping whiteness of their own minds. I am your woman, my man. And black women deal in babies and sweet black kisses and nights that multiply by twos. And I was someplace in '69 at the University of Pittsburgh teaching for just 1 year. Pittsburgh was a hard place to teach in. It's kind of a cold place, much colder than New York. I mean literally cold. But also people were very clannish there. And I introduced a course called The Black Woman. A lot of black women came into the course to learn, began to learn something perhaps about their history in a sense. And I did this poem for them and for myself when I listened to a lot of their conversations. A needed poem for my salvation. I'm going to take me seriously now. Have taken parents, school, children, friends, poets seriously. Have known the cracker to be seriously dangerous. Have taken daytime, nighttime rhetoric seriously and been wounded by lovers of slick black rapping and blacker words, pimps and jivers. I'm going to look in a mirror each time I pass one, smile at my image and say, yeah, sister, it ain't easy, but move beautifully on past it. Keep on holding your head higher, 'cause your best is yet to come. I'm going to take me seriously today and study myself, get a PhD in Sonia Sanchezism, and dare anyone to be an authority on me, 'cause I'll be wounded with Sonia learning, beauty, love, and will be dangerous. Yeah, all things considered, gonna be serious about me and live. The last poem from Bad People is Liberation Poem I read a lot to junior high school students, because I used to like to ask them the end of it. When it says, I'm black and ready, I used to ask, are you black and ready? And they used to say, yeah, real loud. I used to ask the college students, are you black and ready? And they got very quiet. Because I guess you understood that if you say you're black and ready, that means you're ready to take a whole lot of crap that America's going to give to you. Liberation Poem. Blues ain't culture. They sounds of oppression against the white man's game he's running us all these blue years. Blues is struggle, strangulation of our people, 'cause we couldn't off the white man socking it to us. But now, when I hear Billy's soft, soulful sighs of am I blue, I say no, sweet Billy, no more. No more blue trains running on this track, they all been derailed. Am I blue, sweet, baby, blue Billy? No, I'm black and ready. That's from We Are Bad People. And from It's a New Day, poem to Marani Mungu, my twins. Marani means warrior, Mungu means God. Assalamu alaikum, my black princes. The morning awaits you. The world awaits your young blackness, son, children of our tomorrow. Here is my hand, black warriors of our dreams. It is soft as the blue night that covered your blackness till day began its morning talk. It is hard as the strength you gather from your father's words, pouring from his mouth like thunder over a dry land. But I am here to love you, my princes, to gather up your insides and make them smile dreams. For you, my loves, will be the doers, and your deeds will run red with ancient songs that play a continuous chant of it's a new day. It's a new day. It's a new day. Salam alaikum, young princes. The world awaits your young blackness. Poem I did to my daughter and to all other sisters who are considered high yellow in America. It's a very funny thing how America treats us sometimes and conditions us. When you're a sister and you're high yellow, people be saying you think you're cute. You think you're cute. But if you're a brother in high yellow, people say you're fine. The sickness of America. To Anita. High yellow, black girl, walking like the sun you be, move on even higher. Those who laugh at your color have not moved to the blackness we be about, 'cause as Curtis Mayfield be saying, we people be darker than blue, and quite a few of us be yellow, all soul shades of blackness. Yeah, high yellow black girl, walk your black song, 'cause some of us be hearing your sweet music. And it is, if you remember the next time you look at a sister who's high yellow and get funny feelings, funny ideas, just remember she had nothing to do with it, about it, okay? And deal with it. I mean, deal with who is your sister and how they be. Poem I did, this book was done for junior high school students and on, primarily because we came into the junior high schools a lot in the late 60s, early 70s, and they said they could never get our books in because our books had so many curse words in them. And so we did a book with no curse words in it for them. And every time I do this poem next, I think of, I was coming in to New York from someplace, and I had been invited to come over to Brooklyn to a junior high school to listen to a program of what they call Poetry Through the Ages or something. But they had all black poets over there. And it was in Brooklyn. Even though you're from New York, you just don't know Brooklyn. You know, at least I don't know Brooklyn. I always get lost in Brooklyn. And finally, I managed to find the school and came in and slumped down at the back of the set. And these three brothers walked on stage in green suits. You know, I hadn't seen no brothers in green suits in a long time. And, you know, they just didn't walk. You know, black people, although you get in college, you get in Purdue or places like that, people start walking like this, you know. But these brothers, I hadn't seen no brothers bop on stage, you know. You know, I mean, they came with the walk, you know. And, like, I was tired, I mean, from traveling a couple days, and I remember sitting in the back, and I kind of, like, sat up. And the place was noisy. The principal had been saying, shh, keep quiet, I mean, ready to start. And these brothers bopped on stage in their green suits. And they said, we ready to begin. And everyone just went, shh, you know, quiet. And they did this poem. And at the end of the set, when one of the teachers had spotted me, and she said, I want you to meet these three brothers who did your poem. And they came over to me, and one of them said, you know, have you ever talked to young brothers? They don't ever look you straight in the eye. You know, if you're in it, they like, you know, look you from the side, like this, you know. So forever being the teacher, he said, you, Miss Sanchez? And I said, you know, yes, I am she, you know. He said, yeah, right. I did the part about don't want to be no junkie. I said, oh, yes, and I enjoyed it very much, always being the teacher, right? He said, yeah. He said, well, you know, I want you to know something. And I said, you know, yes, some nonsense I said, right? He said, I was messing a little bit. He said, but, you know, I got into your poem, and, like, I want you to know I ain't messing no more. And just split. And if a poem really means anything to you or anyone, it means simply that, like, it can really pull some people through some midnight hours. We all got them, you know. As cool as we be, as cool as we look, and as together as we supposedly are, everybody got some midnight hours. Sometime at some place they're going to catch you sometimes, you know. And, like, I'm just saying that, like, I'm kind of, like, glad that, like, on some level, you know, this young brother, I don't know how old he was, 13, I guess, you know, having midnight hours and whatever, messing, that, like, that in some sense helped him. Don't want to be no pimp, 'cause pimps hate me and you. They mamas, women, sisters too. You name it, any hate will do. Don't want to be no pimp no more. Don't want to be no pimp no more. Don't want to be no numbers runner, 'cause runners promise an uptown hit while downtown white boys just sit while counting millions of our faux bits. Don't want to be no numbers runner no more. Don't want to be no numbers runner no more. Don't want to be no junkie, 'cause junkies kill themselves, you and me, sticking needles in their arms, legs, knee, while robbing our black community. Don't want to be no junkie no more. Don't want to be no junkie no more. Just want to be a Reverend Clegg man, a Minister Farrakhan man, a Sun People Imamu man, an Elijah Muhammad messenger man. Just want to be a black man, a loving my black woman man, a standing still father man, a constant TC beam black man. It got to be, yeah, 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 yeah. It got to be, yeah, 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 yeah. And some of those poems, some of those poems we did for them, and it was something that they could, like, say and sing and whatever, and perhaps hold on poem I want to do is a poem of praise for a brother at Amherst College who drowned at Amherst College in 1973, September 1973. And I call it a poem of praise because when I was talking to the brothers at Amherst College that year, I said that, we don't mourn those who die, that every living thing is born, every living thing dies. And so we must move on past mourning, but remembering him the way he was, the beauty that he was. A poem of praise for Gerald Penny, who died September 1973, Amherst College, and for the brothers of Amherst College. Man is an alien in this world, in spite of all the pleasures. Man is an early traveler who tastes in himself the world. When you wake up in the morning, man, meditate on your beginning. Meditate as you flow in the waters of your birth. Meditate on the 9 months you rest unseen and the world awaits you when you come soiled and crying. And they pick you up like one small melon and hush up your crying. At first you do not speak and your legs are like orphans. At first your 2 eyes cross themselves in confusion. At first your mouth knows only the full breast of milk, a sweet taste of this world. There is nothing which does not come to an end, and to live 1 year is good in the sight of God. You are born worthy of praise. All things that he makes are worthy of praise. In your days made up of dreams, in your eyes made of dawn, you walk towards old age, child of the rainbow, child of beauty, through the broad fields. And your eyes gained power, and your limbs grew long like yellow corn, an abundance of life, an abundance of joy. With beauty before you, you walk towards old age. There is nothing which does not come to an end, and to live 7 years is good in the sight of God. Silently to life you spoke, young male child. You praised life, coming as a river between hills, and your laughter was like red berries in summer, and your shouting like giant eagles. As you walk towards old age, young male child, your voice harnessed the wind. There is nothing which does not come to an end, and to live 14 years is good in the sight of God. Father, behold me in a sacred manner. Mother, behold me in a sacred manner. My family sitting holy, behold me in a sacred manner. For I am man, and I must run with the evening tide, must hold up my hands, for my life is opening before me. I am going to walk far to the east. I hope to find a good morning somewhere. I am going to raise my own voice. I hope to have peace somewhere. Father, mother, behold me now. I have moved to a house of darkness, but your memories of me light my way. I do not cry, for I am man, no longer a child of your womb. There is nothing which does not come to an end, and to live 17 years is good in the sight of God. That's a poem that poem for Gerald Penny. I like to kind of like mix this up a little bit. I've been reading you a few short poems. We were saying this afternoon at a small set that when we started to do poetry, do it seriously, most of the poems we did were like kind of like one-page poems, short poems, because most people's ears weren't attuned to longer poems. In fact, people's ears weren't attuned to poetry, quiet as it's kept. Poetry was a set where, like, you know, little old ladies would have teas and invite poets in, and they drink their little tea and listen to them and clap and say, ooh, wow, ooh, this is good. I'm not being facetious. I'm being very serious. And we started to, like, many people started to poet seriously. I always tell the story that, like, you know, we went to, we did it in New York City with a little music, a little jazz. And then we went to California, San Francisco, and a man named Miri Baraka Ed Bullens, Marvin X, Sarah Fabio, and another poet there, Askia Muhammad Touré, who came out about a year later. We started to poet seriously, and we went out to the community to bring our poems to the community. But our poems had to be short poems. They couldn't be long poems. And quite often the poems had curse words in them. And I explained to the people this afternoon that was primarily because we were able to grab people if we cursed, if we had a curse word, a nicer word, because people gravitate towards curse words, or those who curse. Not those who are cursed, but those who curse. People would kind of listen to you and say, shh, did you hear what she said or he said? And they start looking. Then you had them. Then you could read poems for another hour, never use another curse word, and they never would know the difference. It just goes to show what that's really all about. But we used it, many of us did, and got an audience and began to read certain things and say certain things. We recently some of us started to read longer poems. This takes about 10, 12 minutes, and I like to tell what it is. And it's a poem, it's a narrative poem. The whole book, A Blues Book for Blue, Black, Magical Women, one of my latest books, is a long narrative poem on the black woman, on myself here in America. It moves from her past to rebirth, present, and future. And I want to read you the past section and then the present section. It takes about 10 minutes. And I always say to you, listen, because it's telling a story. Past. Come into black geography, you seated like Manzu's cardinal. Come up through tongues, multiplying memories, and to avoid descent among wounds cruising like ships. Climb into these sockets golden with brine. Because I was born musician to two black braids, I cut a blues song for America. And you, cushioned by middle-class springs, saw ghettos that stretched voices into dust, turned corners where people walked on their faces. I sang unbending songs and gathered gods convenient as Christ. I am the frozen phase. Here my face marches towards new myths while spring runs green with ghosts. I am the living mask. Here my skin warm with adolescence peels like Picasso's plains, and the earth in one fold of permanence stares at the skies. One, woman. Come ride my birth, Earth Mother. Tell me how I have became this woman with razor blades between her teeth. Sing me my history, O Earth Mother, about tongues multiplying memories, about breasts contained in straw. Pull me from the throat of mankind where worms eat, O Earth Mother. Come to this black woman, you, rider of earth pilgrimages. Tell me how I have held 5 bodies in one large cocktail of love and still have the thirst of the beginning sip. Tell me, Earth Mother, for I want to rediscover me, the secret of me, the river of me, the morning ease of me. I want my body to carry my words like aqueducts. I want to make the world my diary and speak rivers. Rise up, Earth Mother, out of rope-strung trees dancing a windless dance. Come, Phantom Mother, dance me a breakfast of births. Let your mouth spill me forth so I creak with your mornings. Come, old Mother, light up my mind with a story bright as the sun. 2, Earth Mother, low singing is heard. Bells, 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 bells. Let the bells ring, bells, bells, bells. Ring the bells to announce this your Earth Mother. For the day is turning in my thighs, and you are born, black girl. Come, I am calling to you this old Earth Mother of the elaborate dreams. Come, come nearer, girl, nearer. I can almost see your face now. Come closer. Yes, there you are. I have stuffed your whole history in my mouth. I, your Earth Mother, was that hungry once for knowledge. Come closer. Ah, little black girl, I see you. I can see you coming towards me, little girl, running from 7 to 35 in one day. I can see you coming, girl made of black braids. I can see you coming in the arena of youth, girl, shaking your butt to double Dutch days. I can see you coming, girl, racing dawns. I can see you coming, girl, made of black rain. I can see you coming. 3, young black girl. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100. Ready or not, here I come. Ready or not, here I come. 1, 2, 3, I see you and you and you and you and you, stepmother, woman of my father's youth, who stands at a mirror, elaborate with smells, all shiny like my new copper penny, telling me through a parade of smiles you are to be my new mother. And your painted lips outlined against time become time, and I look on time and hear you, who threw me in angry afternoon closets till I slipped beneath the cracks like light, and time stopped. And I turned into myself a young girl, breathing in crust, and listened to those calling me. No matter what they do, they won't find me. No matter what they say, I won't come out. I've hidden myself behind black braids and stutters and cannot be seen. No matter what they do, they won't find me. No matter what they say, I won't come out. I listen to words asking, what did she say? Why can't she talk normal talk? There's something wrong with that one. She got the demon inside of her or something. Strange one, too quiet. No matter what they say, they won't find me. No matter what they say, I won't come out. Coming out from Alabama to the island city of corner store Jews, patting big-butted black women in tune to girlie, can I help you? Girlie, what you want today? A good sale on pork today, girlie, girlie, girlie. Coming out from Alabama to the island city of perpetual adolescence, where I drink my young breast and stay thirsty, always hungry for more than the George Washington High School Hunter College days of America. Remember parties where we grind and grind, but not too close, 'cause if you gave it up, everybody would know and tell, and grinding was enough. The closeness of bodies in project basement recreation rooms was enough to satisfy the platter sounds, spinning you into body after body, then walking across the room where young girls watch each other like black vultures, pretending nothing had happened, leaving young brothers in conditions they satisfied with out of the neighborhood girls. Coming out from Alabama into smells I could not smell, into nights that corner licks lit dimly, I walked into young womanhood. Could not hear my footsteps in the streets, could not hear the rhythm of young black womanhood. 4, young womanhood. And I entered into young womanhood. You ask who goes there, who calls out to this perennial black man of ruin, and time on her annual pilgrimage squatted and watched as I called out to love from my door. What a lovely smell love was, like a stream of violets that warmed your face. And I was found at the 4 corners of love, a black man and I imprisoned with laughter at himself, a man made sterile by hatred, a famine man, starved and starving those around him in this plentiful country. As I entered into my young womanhood, I became a budding of laughter. I moved in liquid dreams, wrapped myself in a furious circuit of love, gave out quick words and violent tremblings, and kisses that bit and drew blood, and the seasons fell like waterfalls on my thighs. And I dressed myself in foreign words, became a proper painted European black-faced American, going to theater parties and bars and cocktail parties and bars and downtown village apartments and bars, and ate good cheese and caviar with wine that made my stomach stretch for artificial warmth. Danced with white friends who included me because this was the nice thing to do in the late 50s and early 60s. And I lost myself down roads I had never walked, and my name was without honor, and I became a stranger at my birthright. Who is that making noise on this earth while good people sleep, I wondered, as I turned in our 3-year-old bed of love. In the morning, I reminded you of the noise, and you said just some niggers pretending to be the wind. The night brought more noise, like a swift courier, and I leaped from our bed and followed the sound, and visions came from the wall, bodies without heads, laughter without mouths, then faces crawling on the walls like giant spiders came towards me, and my legs buckled and I cried out. One face touched mine and said, "You are a singer of songs, but you do not listen to what men have said, therefore you cannot sing."
A second face murmured, "You are a reader of books, but books that do not teach you truth are false messiahs." A third face smiled as I closed my eyes. "You move as a free woman, but your body is a monument to slavery and is dead." When morning came, you took me to one inebriated with Freud. Massaging his palms, he called out to me, "A child of the South." And I listened to European words that rushed out to me and handcuffed me. And for a while, I rode on horseback among my youth, remembered Southern days and nights, remembered a beginning New York girlhood where tall buildings looked like aqueducts, remembered stutters I could not silence. At the end of 1 month, when he could not explain away continued acts that killed, at the end of 1 month of stumbling alibis, after my ancestral voices called out to me against past and future murders, I moved away from reconciling myself to murderers and gave myself up to the temper of the times, stood against discrimination in housing, jobs, picketed, sat in, sang about overcoming that which would never come, closed Woolworths, marched against TV stations while ducking horse-riding cops advancing like funeral hawks, was knocked to the ground while my child screamed at the cannibals on horseback, and I screamed, calling out to those who would listen, called out from Carolinian slave markets, Mississippi schools, Harlem streets, that beasts populated us, beasts with no human heartbeats when they came among blackness. And I vomited up the past, the frivolous years, and I threw up the smiles and bowings and nods that had made me smile so many smiles, and I vomited up the stench of the good ship Jesus, sailing to the new world with black gold. I vomited up the cries of newborn babies thrown overboard. I vomited up the waters that had separated me from Dahomey in Arabia and Timbuktu and Muhammad and Asia and Allah. I vomited up Denmark Vesey and Nat Turner and rebellious slave women, their big stomachs split open in the sun. I vomited up white-robed choirs and preachers hawking their sermons to an unseen God. And I vomited out names like beast and death and pigs and death and devil and death, and the vomiting ceased, and I was alone. Woke up alone to the middle 60s, full of the rising wind of history, alive in a country of echoes convulsive with gods, alone with the apocalypse of beasts in America, the repository of European promise, rabid America, where death is gay and obscene and legal in the sight of an unseen God. 5. Womanhood. Moving, constantly, some destiny calling out to me to explore the sea and the sky, to talk against sleeping on our knees. And I moved, eldest daughter of the womb, eldest daughter of the world, open to all blackness, making the country keep in step to these our new sounds, to the music of 1,000,000 black souls. And I called out to prophecy to make me a woman of the beginning tribe, to make me a woman of tyrannical love to cover our wounds. And blackness was the order of the day. All who looked were enchanted and chanted who they once were, and we fell down upon the earth and became ourselves. And blackness was the order of the day. And the voice of Elijah was heard opening the door of the world. And all who came after him, poets and soothsayers, rappers and raconteurs, politicians and activists, writers and teachers, sang his wisdom, and we fell down upon the earth and became ourselves. And I gave birth to myself twice in 1 hour. I became like Mayat, unalterable in my love of black self and righteousness. And I heard the trumpets of a new age, and I fell down upon the earth and became myself. That whole section is a past section that I deal with there. Moving on to the present, there's a rebirth section and there's a future section in the book. The present is just 1 page, talking about right now, many people, what they're into. Part 3, present. This woman, vomiting her hunger over the world, this melancholy woman, forgotten before memory came, this yellow movement bursting forth like Coltrane's melodies, all mouth, buttocks moving like palm trees, this honey-coated Alabamian woman, raining rhythms of blue-black smiles, this yellow woman, carrying beneath her breast This woman, vomiting her hunger over the world. This melancholy woman, forgotten before memory came. This yellow movement bursting forth like Coltrane's melodies, all mouth. Buttocks moving like palm trees. This honey-coated Alabamian woman, raining rhythms of blue-black smiles. This yellow woman, carrying beneath her breast pleasures without tongues. This woman whose body weaves desert patterns. This woman wet with wandering, reviving the beauty of forests and winds, is telling you secrets. Gather up your odors and listen as she sings the mole from memory. There is no place for a soft black woman. There is no smile green enough or summertime words warm enough to allow my growth. And in my head, I see my history standing like a shy child, and I chant lullabies as I ride my past on horseback, tasting the thirst of yesterday tribes, hearing the ancient black woman me singing, hey, 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 like a slow scent beneath the sun, and I dance my creation, and my grandmothers, gathering from my bones like great wooden birds, spread their wings, while their long-legged laughter stretches the night. And I taste the seasons of my birth, mangoes, papayas, drink my woman coconut milks, stalk the ancient grandfathers sipping on proud afternoons, walk with a song round my waist, tremble like a newborn child troubled with new breaths, and my singing becomes the only sound of a blue-black magical woman, walking, womb ripe, walking, loud with mornings, walking, making pilgrimage to herself, walking. That's that whole section from a blues book that, thank you. A couple of poems from a book called Love Poems. In 74, I did 4 books, and blues book was one part of it. The other part was love poem in a children's book I did for my twins called The Adventures of Fathead, Smallhead, and Squarehead. A couple poems from Love Poems. July. The old men and women quilt their legs in the shade while tapestry pigeons strut their necks. As I walk, thinking about you, my love, I wonder what it is to be old and swallow death each day like warm beer. Poem number 3. I gather up each sound you left behind and stretch them on our bed. Each night I breathe you and become high. Magic. Short magic is a kiss in the street with hangers on hoping for more action. Long magic is days wrapped in your black juice. And a poem I did for a sister who came, a good friend of mine, young sister, who came to tell me how she felt when her husband had come home from having been with another woman. It's a poem I did called Poem number 7. When he came home from her, he poured me on the bed and slid into me like glass, and there was the sound of splinters. You can't always put splinters back together again, you know. People should understand sometimes what that's about. Haiku. I use the haiku form a lot in this book. If I had known you, I would have left my love at home. Haiku. I saw you today swaying like a lost flower, waiting to be plucked. Poem number 8. I've been a woman. I say I've been a woman with my legs stretched by the wind, rushing the day, thinking I heard your voice while it was only the night moving over, making room for the dawn. Haku. There are things sadder than you and I. Some people do not even touch. Poem I did for a brother and sister. We had helped this brother get out of jail. It was really nothing big. Sister, was so, she had gotten so lonely and so upset, she said, I'm just going to say all these words to him when he gets out, right? When she saw him, she didn't say anything. So I did this poem as I watched them for them. Welcome home, my prince. All the things she thought she was going to say. Welcome home, my prince, into my white season of know you. Welcome home to my songs that touch your head and rain, bring laughter and greeting. Welcome home to this Monday that has grown up with the sound of your name. For I have chanted to yesterday's sun to hurry back with his belly full of mourning, and you have come, and I cannot look up at you. My body trembles and I mumble things as you stand tall and sacred so easily in yourself. But I am here to love you, to carry your name on my ankles like bells, to dance in your arena of love. You are tattooed on the round, soft parts of me, and your smell is always with me. Haku, your love was a port of call where many ships docked until morning came. Haku, I wrote this haku when I was in the People's Republic of China. And when I realized that I greeted the day before those I loved got the day. So, haku written from Peking. Let me wear the day well, so when it reaches you, you will enjoy it. And a dialogue poem between a brother and a sister. We sometimes love unwisely. We don't always love the people we should love. We kind of like love sometimes the one who's right next to us. That's why they give us some funny time songs. If you can't love the one you want, love the one who's near. No matter what he looks like, who he be, what he's into, just love him, And we have loved unwisely. America had programmed many of us years ago for thinking that someone was going to come on a white horse and save us all, take us away to some fairyland someplace. That was very real. Here's a dialogue poem between a brother and sister who see another kind of love. Brother, assalamu alaikum. Sister, wa alaikum salam. Brother, and how moves my queen today? Sister, my happiness creases the ground as I walk, my king. Brother, I have not seen you in days and I miss your face. Sister, I have carried your picture in my eyes, my brother. Brother, in life, one searches for his twin, and you are mine. Sister, since birth, I have not moved, waiting for you to sift these waves until they flaked like diamonds over me. Brother, I have become the sun. Sister, I feel your heat. Brother, it is hard for the sun to keep all the light and not have a moon to give it to. Sister, it is hard for a moon to deal without her sun. Brother, shall I be the sun for your darkness? Sister, black man, shine upon me. I am a moon for your light, and christened by your sun will make night become day, and the morning shall cradle our blackness. A couple poems from love poems. Want to end up with a short story. I did from a collection, We Be Word Sorcerers. A lot of good people in here. Tony K. Bambara, Amira Baraka, Gwendolyn Brooks, Ed Billings, John Henry Clark, Woody King, Askia Muhammad Ture, Alice Walker, Evan Walker. The story that I did is called After Saturday Night Comes Sunday. It had all started at the bank. She wasn't sure, but she thought it had at that crowded bank where she had gone to clear up the mistaken notion that she was $300 overdrawn in her checking account. Sandy had moved into that undersized, low expectation of niggers being able to save anything bank meanly. She was tired of crackers charging her for their own mistakes. She had seen it with her own eyes, 5 checks, 4 for $50, the other one for $100, made out to an Anthony Smith. It was Winston's signature. Her stomach jumped as she added and re-added the figures. Finally, she dropped the pen and looked up at the business-suited cracker sitting across from her with crossed legs and eyes. And as she called him faggot in her mind, watermelon tears gathered round her big eyes, and she just sat. Someone had come for her at the bank. A friend of Winston's helped her to his car. It was the white dude who followed Winston constantly with his eyes. Begging eyes, she had once called them, half in jest, half seriously. They was begging now, along with his mouth, begging Sandy to talk, but she couldn't. The words had gone away, gotten lost, drowned by the warm April rain dropping in on her as she watched the car move down the long, unbending street. It was her first spring in Indianapolis. She wondered if it would be beautiful. He was holding her, crying in her ear, loud cries, almost louder than the noise already turning in her head. Yeah, he said, between the cries that he had messed up the money he had. Oh, baby, come on, Sandy, and talk. Talk to me. Help me, baby. Help me to tell you what I got to tell you for both our sakes. He stretched her out on the green, oversized couch that set out from the wall like some displaced trailer waiting to be parked. I'm hooked, he said. I'm hooked again on stuff. It's not like before, though, when I was 17 and just beginning. This time is different. I mean, it has to do now with me and all my friends who are still on junk. You see, I got out of the joint and looked around and saw those brothers who are my friends all still on the stuff, and I cried inside. I cried long tears for some beautiful dudes who didn't know how the man had them by their balls. Baby, I felt so sorry for them, and they were so turned around that one day over to Tony's crib I got high with them. That's all, baby. I know I shouldn't have done that, you and the kids and all, but they was dudes I was in a joint with, my brothers who have a Long Jones. I can get clean, baby. I mean, I don't have a Long Jones. I ain't been on it too long. I can kick now, tomorrow. You just say it. Give me the word sign that you understand. Forgive me for being one big asshole, and I'll start kicking tomorrow. For you, baby. For the kids. Please say you forgive me, baby. I know I've been laying some heavy stuff on you, spending money we ain't even got. I'll get a job, too, next week. Staying out all the time, hitting you for telling me the truth about myself, my actions. Baby, it is you I love in spite of my crazy actions. It's you I love. Don't nobody else mean to me what you do. It's just that I've been acting crazy. But I know I can't keep on keeping on this way and keep you and the children. Give me a whole lot of slack during this time and I can kick it, baby. I love you. You're so good to me. The meanest thing that done happened to me. You're the best thing that ever happened to me in all of my 38 years, and I'll take better care of you. Say something, Sandy. Say you understand it all. Say you forgive me, at least that. He raised her head from the couch and kissed her. It was a short, cooling kiss, not warm, not long, a binding kiss. She opened her eyes and looked at him and the bare room that somehow now complemented their lives, and she started to cry again. And as he grabbed her and rocked her, she spoke for the first time since she had told that white-collar cracker in the bank that the bank was wrong. Peace. Say, my God, I'm stuttering, stuttering, she thought, just like when I was little. Stop talking, girl. Write what you have to say, just like you used to when you was little and you got tired of people staring at you while you push words out of an unaccommodating mouth. Yeah, that was it, she thought. Stop talking and write what you have to say. Nod your head to all of this madness, but rest your tongue and nod your head and use your hands so you get it all straight again. She pointed to her bag, and he handed it to her. She took out a pen and notebook and wrote that she was tired, that her head hurt and was spinning, and that she wanted to sleep for a while. She turned and held his face full of little sores where he had picked for ingrown hairs the night before. She kissed them and let her tongue move over his lips, wetting them. He smiled at her and said he would get her a couple sleeping pills. He would also pick up some dollars for himself, 'cause Saturday was kicking time for him. As he went out the door, he turned and said, "Lady, you some lady. I'm a lucky one to have found you." And she watched him from the window, and the sun hit the gold of his dashiki and made it bleed yellow raindrops. She must have dozed. She knew it was late. It was dark outside. The room was dark also. And she wondered if he had come in and gone upstairs where the children were napping. What a long nap the boys were taking. They would be up all night tonight if they didn't wake up soon. Maybe she should wake them up, but she decided against it. Her body was still tired, and she heard footsteps on the porch. His voice was light and cracked a little as he explained his delay. He was high, she knew it. He sounded like he sounded on the phone when he called her late in the night from some loud place and complimented her for understanding his late hours. She hadn't understood them. She just hated to be a complaining woman. He had no sleeping pills, but he had gotten her something as good, a morphine tablet. She watched his face as he explained that she could swallow it or pop it into the skin. He said it worked better if you stuck it in your arm. As he took the tablet out of the cellophane papers of his cigarettes, she closed her eyes, and for a moment she thought she heard someone crying outside the house, and she opened her eyes. His body hung loose as he knelt by the couch. He took from his pocket a manila envelope. It had little spots of blood on it, and as he undid the rubber band, she saw 2 needles, a black top with 2 pieces of dirty white cotton balls in it, and she knew this is what he used to get high with. Don't. What none of that stuff. And that so to I what did sleep. Okay. Now, she picked up her notebook and pen and started to write again. I slept while you was gone, man. I drifted on off as I looked for you to walk up the steps. I don't want that stuff. Give me a cold beer, though. If there's any in the house, I'll drink that. But no stuff, man, she wrote. I'm your woman. You shouldn't be giving me some of that stuff. Throw the pill away. We don't need it. You don't need it anymore. You're going to kick and we're going to move on, keep on being bad together. I'll help you, man, because I know you want to kick. Flush it on down the toilet. You'll start kicking tomorrow, and I'll get a babysitter and take us for a long drive in the country, and we'll move on the grass and make it move with us because we'll be full of living, alive thoughts. And we'll stop and make love in the middle of nowhere, and the grass will stop its wintry brown chants and become green as our black bodies sing, heave, love each other. Throw that stuff away, man, because we got more important, beautiful things to do. As he read the note, his eyes looked at hers in a half-clear way, and he got up and walked slowly to the john. She heard the toilet flushing, and she heard the refrigerator door open and close. He brought 2 cold beers, and as she opened hers, she sat up to watch him rock back and forth in the rocking chair, and his eyes became small and sad as he said half-jokingly, "Hope I don't regret throwing that stuff in the toilet." And he leaned back and smiled sadly as he drank his beer. She turned the beer can up to her lips and let the cold evening foam wet her mouth and drown the gathering stutters of her mind. The sound of cries from the second floor made her move. As she climbed the stairs, she waved to him, but his eyes were still closed. He was somewhere else, not in this house, she thought. He was somewhere else, floating among past dreams she had never seen or heard him talk about. As she climbed the stairs, the boys' screams grew louder. Wow, them boys got some strong lungs, she thought, and smiled. It was 11:30, and she had just put the boys in their cribs. She heard them sucking on their bottles, working hard at nourishing their bodies. She knew the youngest twin would finish his bottle first and cry out for more milk before he slept. She laughed out loud. His shoulder could grease. He was in the bathroom. She knocked on the door, but he said for her not to come in. She stood outside the door, not moving, and knocked again. "Go and turn on the TV," he said. "I'll be out in a few minutes." It was 30 minutes later when he came out. His walk was much faster than before, and his voice was higher than the fear moving over her body. She ran to him, threw her body against him, and held on. She kissed him hard and moved her body over his until he stopped and paid attention to her movements. They fell on the floor. She felt his weight on her, and as she moved and kissed him and moved and kissed him, as his hands started to move across the small frame that was full of red-yellow motions that reached out for his yesterdays to turn them into tomorrows, she was feeling good, and she couldn't understand why he stopped. In the midst of it all, he stopped and took out a cigarette and lit it. She felt naked all of a sudden and sat down and drew her legs up against her chest and closed her eyes. She reached for a cigarette and lit it. He stretched out next to her. She felt very ashamed, as if she had made him do something wrong. She was glad that she couldn't talk, because that way she didn't have to explain. "It's just, baby, that this stuff kills any desire for that. I mean, I want you and all that, but I can't." He lit another cigarette and sat up. "Baby, you sure know how to pick 'em. I mean, was you born under an unlucky star or something? First you had a nigger who preferred a rich white woman to you in blackness. Now you have a junkie who can't even satisfy you when you need satisfying." And his laugh was harsh as he said again, "You sure know how to pick him, lady." She didn't know what else to do, so she smiled a nervous smile that made her remember times when she was little, and she just stuttered through a sentence, and the listener had acknowledged her accomplishment with a smile, and all she could do was smile back. He turned and held her and said, "Stay up with me tonight, baby. I got all these memories creeping in on me, bad ones. They's the things that make kicking hard, you know. You begin remembering all the mean things you done to your family friends who did you. I'm remembering now all the heavy things I done laid on you. You hardly had a chance to catch your breath when I think of some new game to lay on you. Help me, Sandy. Listen to my talk. Hold my hand when I get too sad. Laugh at my fears that keep popping out on me like some childhood disease. Be my vaccine, baby. I need you. Don't ever leave me, baby, because I'll never have a love like you again. I'll never have another woman again if you leave me." He picked up her hands and rubbed them in his palms as he talked, and she listened until he finally slept and morning crept in through the shades and covered them. He threw away his works when he woke up. He came over to where she was feeding the boys and kissed her and walked out to the backyard and threw the manila envelope into the middle can. He came back inside, smiled, and took a dolly with a glass of water and fell on the couch. Sandy put the boys in their strollers in the backyard where she could watch them as she cleaned the kitchen. She saw Snow, their big white dog, come around the corner of the house to sit in front of them. They babbled words to him, but he sat still, guarding them from the backyard evils of the world. She moved fast in the house, had a second cup of coffee, called their babysitter, and finished straightening up the house. She put on a short dress which showed her legs, and she felt good about her big, black, hairy legs. She laughed as she remembered that the young brothers on her block used to call her big-legged mama as she walked in her young ways. They never made the country. Their car refused to start, and Winston was too sick to push her to the filling station for a jump, so they walked to the park. He pushed her in the swing, and she pumped herself higher and higher and higher till he told her to stop. She let the swing come slowly to a stop, and she jumped out and hit him on the behind and ran. She heard him gaining on her, and she tried to dodge him, but they fell laughing and holding each other. She looked up at him, and her eyes said, "I wish you could make love to me, man." As she laughed and pushed him away, she thought, "But just you wait till you're all right, Winston." And they got up and walked till he felt badly, and they went home. He stayed upstairs while she cooked. When she went upstairs to check on him, he was curled up, wrapped tight as a child in his mother's womb. She wiped his head and body full of sweat and kissed him. She massaged his back and went away. He called for her as she was feeding the children and asked for the wine. He needed something else to relieve this Saturday night pain that was creeping upon him. He looked bad, she thought, and she raced down the stairs and brought him the sherry. He thanked her, and as she went out the door and she curtsied and smiled and said, "Any old-time boss," she noticed she hadn't stuttered and felt good. By the time she got back upstairs, he was moaning and turning back and forth on the bed. He had drunk half the wine in the bottle. Now he was getting up to bring it all up. When she came back up to the room, he said he was cold, so she got another blanket for him. He was still cold, so she took off her clothes and got under the covers with him and rubbed her body against him. She was scared. She started to sing a Billie Holiday song, "Yeah, God bless the child that's got his own." She cried in between the lyrics as she felt his big frame trembling and heaving. "Oh, God," she thought, "am I doing the right thing?" He soon quieted down and got up to go to the toilet. She closed her eyes as she waited for him. She closed her eyes and felt the warmth of the covers creeping over her. She remembered calling his name as she drifted off to sleep. She remembered how quiet everything finally was. One of the babies woke her up. She went into the room and picked up his bottle and got him more milk. It was while she was handing him the milk that she heard the silence. She ran to their bedroom and turned on the light. The bed was empty. She ran down the stairs and turned on the lights. He was gone. She saw her purse on the couch. Her wallet was empty. Nothing was left. She opened the door and went out on the porch, and she remembered the lights were on and that she was naked. But she stood for a moment, looking out at the flat in Annapolis Street, and she stood and let the late-night air touch her body, and she turned and went inside. Thank you.
I'd like to make some announcements. We'd like to thank the women of Sigma Gamma Rho who served as hostesses tonight. I think they deserve a round of applause. We thank them very much. I also would like to remind you that we have 2 visiting artists in residence in the area of black choral music. Professor Robert Ray is here. And I believe there are enough of us on this campus to have a very dynamic choir if we just participate. And the rehearsals are held at the University Church Sanctuary every Monday up until December the 6th. And we invite all of you to come out and participate. Also, Sister Darlene Blackburn is here on Mondays and Tuesdays. And I'd like to clarify one thing in regards to the dance. It's not African dance that she's teaching. She's teaching black social dance in America, and the emphasis on living for the city. And it's an attempt to at least to try to stress the need to of the type of dances that we are familiar with, so that we can utilize and participate in it. And we would like for you to at least come out and check out Sister Darlene. She's a very beautiful sister. And we would also like to have as many brothers as possible. Now, we have a lot of dancing on campus. There's no reason why we can't put that to some practical form. Also, I'd like to announce to you again that our next event will be Muhammad Ali on November the 20th. He will be coming. I'd like to make a final announcement, and that is that the very beautiful Sister Sanchez has an album out, just recently released, entitled A Sun Lady for All Seasons Reads Her Poetry, and it's on the Folkways label. I have a copy of it, and it's also at the center on tape if anyone would like to hear it. And now we have a 10-minute question and answer session.
Oh, he had gone out, love. Yes.
Look back at the 60s, I'm thinking in particular reaction that Ed Williams had taken to Miss Jane. Had a chance to see it in New York or something. And you look at the 70s now and look what has happened to nationalist organizations. What would you say those nationalist organizations that have not turned Marxist have to offer black people at this juncture?
I think that not all the organizations were nationalistic in the 1960s, for one, okay? Right. Okay, I think that's kind of like important to say. There were about a couple who we talked about nationalism. A lot were for show, okay? And a lot just started to get involved with what we were talking about in terms of blackness, all right? I would say that there aren't really many organizations left in the 1970s, if you check it out carefully enough. America has actually wiped out most of the organizations, in quotes, organizations, from the 1960s, right? The Black Panther Party is no more. Us is no more, right? Imam's group has moved towards socialism, right? The Nation of Islam is the only thing that's left that talks about, in quotes, nationalism and such, which was like the originator, in quotes, of nationalism here in America in terms of blackness, right? Okay, so we're talking about like very few organizations as such that talked about nationalism as such. There were organizations that were activists, activists. I mean, they were involved in activities, right, and doing things in the community, but they never stressed ideology, if you remember correctly. They didn't have their 10-point plan as such. I would say that in the 1970s, we're talking about a different time and a different place and a different emphasis. In the 1960s, when people started to like bring the idea of blackness among us, the idea of blackness is very foreign to most black people. I was saying this afternoon when we got up on the stage and said we were black, people used to boo us. Quiet as it's kept, Blacks would get up and leave. Say, I didn't come to hear that stuff, The academic bloods would get up and say, I am a Negro. My father was a Negro. My father's father was a Negro. And I'm happy to be a Negro, And we were not even trying to make no problems, We were just saying that, we see ourselves a little bit more as Negro. Couldn't you accept us, and begin to deal with this, right? But they were ready to they came out fighting, in a sense, right? So as we moved and talking about this so-called newfound blackness, we had all kinds of people looking at us strangely. Many of us began to deal totally with the body, physically, That's how like 12 years ago, 13 years ago, people got naturals, and began to walk that across America. I walked across the street in New York City, and a taxi cab driver, you know how taxi cab drivers never stop for nothing in New York City, and he laid back, and he had the light. So I was standing there because I don't cross the street unless I got the light in New York City, you have to be crazy. So I waited, and he waited. He just kept his cab right there, and the light changed. I had the green light. I headed across the street. I got halfway across the street. He honked the horn and said, ooga booga booga booga, because you had a natural. I'm talking about 13 years ago. And my father said to me, you're going to lose your job, girl. And I did, make no mistake about it. Because America was looking at this, trying to figure out what is this all about, And, we started to dress and look different, differently here in America. And began to study. And above all, we began to study. That was the most important thing. But we physically changed, which brought attention to us, right? We lost jobs, had to go to other places like private schools, etc., to survive at that time. We began a real routine of study, which was very intense because we knew so little about ourselves. I mean, there was just nothing we knew. Du Bois was a stranger to us. You know what I'm saying? We resurrected Marcus Garvey when we started the Black Studies program. And a man named Richardson out in San Francisco printed a little tiny book that Marcus Garvey was saying. And a couple of years later, then the big publishing companies did the big, thick books of Garvey. But like we brought up, people know, who was Marcus Garvey? He had died back then in them, years and years ago. But I'm saying with study, we began to make a certain kind of movement, right? We began to listen to people who were talking to us then in the 60s, right? Who would talk and say out loud things that our parents thought, remember? Our father would come home from working downtown and slam the door and start talking about white people. He was scared to say it out loud. But my generation said it out loud, and that was the danger at that time. It was a lot of talk, But with the talk, we began to talk about you should also do some of these things. You should also do some of this. We must move together positively. We must get rid of slavery kinds of images. We must move in positive ways. Above all, we must love each other and stop hustling and killing each other. Which on some levels today, people say, oh, yeah, that's cool, But the time people began to talk and say these things via organizations, right? Via things like this, like talks, lectures, dances, plays. Black Theater became resurrected. Ed Billings, every play that he has, except the couple ones, the last couple of years, he wrote in those days, right? It just took all that time to get many of them produced. You know what I'm saying? Very prolific man. But some of his first plays were produced among black people. And black people came to see something about themselves. The same with Baraka. Some of his first plays were done at that same time. Some of the first poems we ever did were read to audiences for the first time from manuscript form. Because we were saying something to people about what they were about. We began to say, hey, that's not the way to live, Hey, you really ain't that way. Hey, you can be better than that. Hey, coming up out of the mud. Hey, do this and do that. And people were appalled by it at first. Then people started to come and listen somewhat. So I'm just saying that we took, many didn't belong to organizations, right? And then you saw many of the artists gravitating towards organizations, right? Because they couldn't support themselves by themselves. By that I mean, you try to find out you cannot survive America through talk. You got to get down to concrete things. Many of us gave birth to children. So therefore, how do you live with children? Who educates them, right? Who supports what you're saying out loud, right? Who supports the black pictures in your house, right? Who supports the way you eat in your house? Who supports how you talk to them about being human beings and humane towards everybody? I became a Muslim, and in becoming a Muslim, that antagonized a whole bunch of people around me black, right? But I always told them that, I said, I've never in my life been a racist. That when people told my children to say certain words about, call this person hunky, cracker, devil, I said, then don't do that. I said, I get up on the stage and do it, right? Because, it's for a purpose, right? I did poems like that saying hunky, cracker, devil, whatever. And I said at the end, now that it's all said, let's get to work. Because I knew that people had to get that out. We had to regurgitate what was inside of ourselves. You know what I'm saying? It was inside. It was deep inside. You can't move till you regurgitate, spit it out, get it all cleansed and then move on past it. But I did not fall back into the trap to let my children do that. Because I wouldn't like going someplace and have someone call me nigger, right? I've never taught my children things like that, you see. And I had all kinds of problems behind that, too. But I had the vision that, we're talking about new kinds of children coming on the planet Earth, right? And new kinds of children also seeing the world in a certain kind of way, right? Which meant that they had to see people, different kinds of people, right? People who are going to move with them in a certain kind of way. And they had to have that vision, and that kind of humanity within themselves to survive the craziness that, we have among ourselves here as adults, if you understand truly what I'm saying, because we are indeed still a sick people here in America. So trying to keep them healthy. But so therefore we moved, some of us moved towards organizations, right? And they began to move and function from those organizations as such, with an ideology, with a base, right? With schools coming up, with books coming from it, with all kinds of things coming from it as such, just to survive, because you've got to have something to build on. You can't build from yourself, if you understand truly what I'm saying. Now in the 70s, there are very few that happen to be there. As we read them and see them, we see that some organizations have had money poured into them and they do nothing. They don't do nothing for us. We don't have the institutions coming up that we need, as a people. So I say one thing, that I don't say to anyone, you must be one thing to survive, okay? I say to you that you've got to look at what is there, because you are an adult, you are intelligent, right? You must look and see what is there, and those things that are supporting us, you must support. Those things that are black and support, you must support them. So many of us support all kinds of organizations as such, primarily because it is doing something. If it does something positive, I got to support it, because it's going to support a certain element, perhaps of blacks that are out there, who are out there, right? But I will support it. I will come, do readings and whatever, give money, whatever, to see it grow. Because like some of us will probably be taking a few different roads right down there, but we're going to end up the same place. But you see, I see there's something wrong here if we end up hating each other. So there's something wrong. There's no difference between when I was growing up in Harlem and the West Indians came from the Indies, right? Jamaica and Trinidad, and lived next door to me, and the people came from the South, and we hated each other so thoroughly, right? When the Puerto Ricans moved in to the same area, right, and people started hating each other too, there's something wrong with the people like, here we are black, and because I'm in a different organization, I got to hate you. You see, that we're still prey to the same kind of nonsense here in America. You see, because I can respect if you're doing some work. I've got to respect you. So I can't say to you, no, there's only one organization. I can say to you that there is my organization, that I find that I can do things in, right? That my children are, in quotes, protected, and they go to school and learn, that the ideology supports what I'm saying at this particular time. You know what I'm saying? And there's a base for them to grow from and on and move up from. But if you say you have another one, I say that's good if that supports you, right? But then we must move together, in concert with each other and not against each other. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Other than the size difference, what do you see as being the essential differences between Hockey's organization and its present ideology and the Nation of Islam and its present ideology?
Right. I have not studied Hockey's. I studied Hockey's organization at the time of the break with Baraka. If you know Baraka's organization, then you know Hockey's organization. Okay, right. And it comes from an African perspective, right? That we are an African people. And the difference, I think, with the Nation of Islam is that Nation of Islam says simply that we are not just an African people. We just don't come from that point at all. That we have a history much further back than Africa, if you understand truly what I'm saying. And it just merely says, don't limit us right there on that continent, you see. Because we go back into some deep history past Africa, we have been all over the planet Earth. Asia merely means land. And it really means that we've been all over the land. As you travel and study history, even from just the pyramids alone, you find the same black man. It's the same man traveling in Egypt, in Asia, with the ziggurats, right? With the mounds, right? Coming all over the Bering Straits on into the Americas as such, leaving his trail behind him, which is temples, and pyramids, etc. If you really understand what I'm saying. So don't limit us. Because a man, Alexander, with his little friend, Africanus, named it Africa, and it's a limitation right there. I'm just saying that once upon a time it was East Asia, you know what I'm saying, and Far East Asia, meaning just land. Those are the areas that we inhabited, right? And those are basically some of the same the differences. And then also, Baraka's organization was always patterned off the Nation of Islam. Just like the Black Panther Party was, if you read the 10-point program. I used to give a research question to my students, one of the first days in class, in some of the lit classes. I used to say, go and get the Black Panther paper, and Muhammad Speaks, and tell me which one was first. He said, the Black Panther paper was first. I said, I don't know. You tell me, But it was first. And the same program was on the back. They just changed some words, added guns to it, which really didn't need to be done because black people always had guns. Quiet is kept in America. Yes, they did. Coming down south, black people in the south always had a gun in a top drawer, and they always told you, don't open that drawer and touch it, because there was a gun in there. And we knew better that, our fathers had guns. So all of a sudden people said, get some guns and be bad. There's a lot of rhetoric. The old folks always had guns. But they kept quiet about their guns. Many people get very much upset A lot of the young ones, you know, with the passion. When people say, you know, well, why can't you understand? I say, yes, we did come. You know, this has been an African experience, if you don't understand where I'm coming from, you know. But to me, it's nothing to get hung up on as such. And my reality is that, like, you know, you've got to work together, whatever you're into. You know, if you're saying that But they kept quiet about their guns. Many people get very much upset, a lot of the young ones, you know, with the passion, when people say, you know, well, why can't you understand? I say, yes, we did come. You know, this has been an African experience, if you don't understand where I'm coming from, you know. But to me, it's nothing to get hung up on as such. And my reality is that, like, you know, you've got to work together, whatever you're into. You know, if you're saying that I am an African person and I love black people, you can't exclude me. Because you have to start excluding the continent of Africa. Do you know there are more Muslims on the continent of Africa? It's a Muslim continent. Study. So you're talking about Africa, then what are you talking about? You're excluding the Muslims in Africa? The 60% who are there? I'm saying, like, you know, get your rhetoric straight sometimes and understand that, like, we're talking about all of us, okay? And they get along, some of them. And we're talking about a new kind of people here in this country. That means we've got to set a new style. And it means we can't hate. Because hatred ain't nothing new with us. You know, we've been taught that. And so I strive very much to keep some kind of unity among us. I think it's so important. And I hope that many of the young ones do the same, you know, coming behind. Yes, sir. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Yes, it's a lot of work, though. It's a lot of work, a lot of energy, and there's no time for jiving. Okay? It is possible to come to Purdue or any place, Amherst, whatever, and jive for 4 years, right? And come out with little information, probably just a little bit more than you got there, right? With a degree. That is possible. And it's possible to, and then to go around saying, yeah, man, I'm into my thing. You know, yeah, I'm black, and do the whole handshake, and do that, right? And that's it. You know, wear the natural, on special occasions, wear dashikis. And that's the extent of it all. It's possible to come to Purdue and understand that Purdue is not put up here to teach you anything about yourself. And more than likely, the Black Studies programs are not really. They can, some do, right? But even with the pressure that's put on Black Studies programs, that sometimes even then they cannot even do that and stay alive, if you understand truly where I'm coming from. So it's up to you to understand that what am I here for? What am I coming to get an education for? Am I coming to get an education just so I can walk out of here and be a doctor, you know, and maybe one day move back home and make beaucoup money as a doctor, you know what I'm saying? You know, and live well. I mean, people have them ideas. You think I'm joking? You know, people go, I'm going to Howard, so I can make me some bread, you know, beaucoup money. You say, I mean, you say beaucoup money, you know, in this day and age. But I'm just saying, people think this, you see. Think this way. I want a big home. I mean, some graduates of Amherst are talking about they're going to be bankers, you know, and be the black bankers, because this is like the big thing now, you know, with like black bankers. You know, the field is wide open now. So they're in Harvard at this time, coming through, being programmed to be these so-called bankers and head of some of these black banks at this time. And they're going to deal. And their idea, their dream, their vision, mind you, is to have a home someplace on top of some hill. You know, I'm serious. I wish it sounds like a GG movie, right? But it's so real that, like, you know, it's terrible in the telling, but I listen to it. And I'm saying to you, yes, at this time, this generation is so important to us. And the reality is that we cannot possibly really sustain you conscious-wise on Purdue. What you've got to do is try to do part of that yourself. And that comes in terms of, like, in a sense, having people come in terms of programs, right? You're reading a few of your classes, but understand that above all, you've got to come in and get the information. Now, we need you coming out, if an engineer, one of the best engineers, you know, because we're going to need you one day to build some buildings someplace, right? Build bridges someplace, you know. Build up countries someplace. I'm not just being facetious. I'm talking about reality, and you got to know what you're about, you see. In the meantime, too, you got to understand that, like, you're not going to be there, like, to be a great engineer just for money. Because, see, it's not about money at this stage of the game, this materialistic kind of thing. That y'all have almost, whether you want to or not, a mission that's being laid on you. That, yes, you will get an education, but you'll never be no rich people or no well-to-do people, because it ain't about that no more. And as long as we have blacks and people in this world who are poor, who go to bed hungry, as long as the majority of the people on this planet Earth, in this world, you know, are poor and underfed, that your job cannot be, you know, having a big-time job someplace making bread. I'm serious about that. You know, it ain't within your purview no more. You're born in the wrong time. You should have been born in the 1930s someplace, right? But now in 1970, in the 70s, it ain't about that at all. And I say to you, yes. I said to you what I told some people, some brothers up in Amherst recently. I said, there is one way to survive it, and that is always every morning. I told them that, like, we have a thing going there, 50 students and myself, that every morning at 7:30, we get up at 7:30, and we sit in a very comfortable position, any position that you find comfortable, okay? And at 7:30 in the morning, people began to get up and say, I will succeed. I will beat Amherst College, if you understand what I'm saying. I don't mean beat Amherst College like, trying to, be better than that, but I will come through it with my mind straight. I'm going to get rid of all these peculiar things I'm into, negative kinds of things. I mean, that's not, but, whatever they want to say, that's like what they say at 7:30 in the morning to, like, zoom through what is there. If you understand what I'm saying. And the reality is to open up yourself to, like, to information, to open yourself up to what is here, what is real in America. Because we know what's real. We know when we're jiving. We know when we're serious, We know when people come to us with good ideas. We know when people come to us with terrible ideas, We know what is good and we know what is bad for us. The point is that if we understand what's good for us, we've got to change up a little bit, to accept it. And quite often we're not ready to do that. I'm saying, yes, we need serious people now. We need dedicated people. We need people willing to work. It's a working time at this particular time. It's a hard time that's coming up. And there ain't no time for glamour no more. There's no great thing being a college student no more. You know what I'm saying? So what? What is an AB or BA, right? What do you know, blood? Huh? What you going to contribute to us all? Huh? I mean, who are you going to go to some of the agricultural schools, huh? And talk about the land again, right? Who are you going to deal with this pollution here? How are we going to raise people now, from now on, who won't be so arrogant in terms of controlling this world that they will pollute the whole world? That's arrogance. That is arrogance, pure arrogance. We're talking about raising new kinds of people on the planet. That ain't easy. And you've got to remove yourself from material kinds of things. So I'm saying, yes, you can, if you're willing to do some certain things, right? If it's a morning thing or an evening thing, take some time during the day, and open yourself up to the universe. Understand, you're a speck in the universe. I am too, you are. Drop them egos that you got. Who are you? And in the total scheme of this universe, we're nobody. Just like that, Here in this universe of millions of years has been in existence, what are we? Nothing. If you understand about yourself, then you can forget your egos. And understand it is indeed about work. Good, that's it? Say it again. I didn't. I've been reading some of the black women artists recently. Alice Walker's collection of short stories, which are very introspective. Talk a lot about, I think it's called Women in Love and Trouble. I probably have the title wrong, but it's something like that. Gwendolyn Brooks' works at this time. She's been writing a long time, and what she's trying to do at this time, attempting to do, in terms of changing some of her works. Are you asking what direction are they going in? Is it going in? Is that your question? Is that your question? any areas that have not come together that are segregated? I don't quite follow that. I don't quite. Mhm. Mhm. There might be some area that's not prolific with women artists. Right. Well, yeah. Right. Since in the 1960s, there are quite a number of black women playwrights, novelists, poets. But I heard another part of that question. That's why I was trying to draw it out. I didn't know exactly. But yes, black women are in many areas in literature. They're dramatists, novelists, poets. Is that your question? Mm-hmm. Are they taking a futuristic look or back to roots? I think that it's probably, well, I can't speak for all now, okay? Lucille Clifton is dealing a lot with her parents and the past and this kind of thing in terms of her poetry, right? Some other writers are trying to deal with future kinds of things, myself included, a couple of people. But I really couldn't tell you, if it's futuristic or whatever, if all of them are.
We'd like to thank Sister Sanchez and remind you that the reception will immediately be following in about 15 to 20 minutes at the Black Cultural Center.
Mm-hmm.